Online for Authors. I'm chatting with Deborah J Brasket, author of This Sea Within. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you, Terry. It's great to be here.
It is wonderful to have you. I loved the book, but before we dive in, can you give my readers and listeners just a quick idea? What are they going to find when they open up the cover of This Sea Within?
Okay, well, it's in a way, it's kind of a mashup of different genres. It's a historical novel. It's set in the 1970s during.
Doesn't that hurt your heart, by the way, that 1970s is considered historical? That hurts my heart.
I know. I think about that too. But they do have a new category,
Yes.
20th century historical lit. And
Yes.
so it does fit in that. Yeah. And then it's also a political thriller because it's set in Central America during a revolution. And it looks at all of the political type of things that are going on with this group that are trying to overthrow a corrupt dictator. And it's a coming of age story about our protagonist, Lena. And she is an idealistic anti-war protester that travels to San Balanque, which is her estranged mother's homeland, to learn more about her Maya heritage. And there she gets caught up in a revolution. And so it's about her transformation from an anti-war activist to becoming a dedicated freedom fighter in this war. And it's also a love story between two passionate people who are dedicated to this cause as well as to each other. And that happens when she meets the leader of the revolution, Raul.
Yes, and I loved his name. I thought Raul is just like the perfect name for, a character that you're going to fall in love with. I could just see him when he came up out of that river, just, soaking wet. And I thought, yeah, I've fallen in love too. So you did a good job with that.
Well, it's funny because one of my beta readers, she always referred to him as Raul Lala because I think she was in love with him too.
Yes.
He was a fun character to write about.
So let's talk just a minute. You brought up the fact that it's kind of this mashup of these genres. I mean, Amazon has it listed as hist-fic, adventure, romance, and a lot of the advice that we get when we're writing is, find your lane, stay in your lane. And I'm terrible at that, by the way. I write all over the place. I have so many lanes. I don't even know where the highway's going. But when you were writing, did you have a genre in mind, or did the genre kind of just come as you wrote?
Well, I did kind of have one, but what I was looking for originally was to write the kind of novel that I like to read.
Right.
And so I was looking for a steamy love story between two dedicated people looking at important issues going on in the world. And I love political thrillers and I love adventure stories. So I tried to pack all that together. And I think maybe at the beginning I had the mistake of thinking of this as not a romance because it doesn't follow the romance
trope, right?
Yeah, it doesn't follow that, but a love story. And I think I was thinking a little bit about the love story between Claire and Jamie in The Outlander. Yeah. If you've ever seen that or read the book or seen the series, they sometimes get along, sometimes they don't, but they're just so in love with each other and so dedicated to each other. And it's during rebellious times and wartime. And I love that series and that book. And so I was looking for something that I would love to write and would love to read,
Right. Do you find it difficult then when you're done and someone says to you, so what's the genre of your book? Do you find it difficult to know what to say?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do. And I've had some, early reviewers of the book, and I was kind of actually even surprised when people labeled it a political thriller. And I thought, well, yeah, of course, it's a political thriller. And then coming of age,
Yes.
and I thought, well, I always thought of coming of age a little differently, but then I thought, well, yes, this definitely is, or a new adult,
Right.
I had a hard time, and I'm still having a hard time with categories and, tags for this novel. I really am.
But I think one of the things that we're hitting on right here is something that I'm seeing a lot more of now, that a lot of authors aren't with the big traditional publishers who get to tell you what you can and can't do. And we're more about doing what we want, what's in our hearts, what we want to put out into the world. We're finding a lot more genre mashups than we used to. It used to be that there were very defined lanes in which one found books. And now all the time I'm seeing people who are mixing these genres into something that's new.
Yeah, I'm finding that too. And you find that a lot with literary fiction, that they're going into the mystery or other elements, and mixing them up. And I think that I find that very interesting. And I think it makes it fun for writers to be able to explore and go different directions. And
I think that readers are enjoying it as well, to be able to not, to me, if you read the same genre over and over and over and over, after a while, you kind of know what's coming. I mean, sure, it's a different character and it's a different place, but you know what's coming. And with these mashups, you don't necessarily know what's coming, because where is the author going with this? And so I like that. I loved that idea. The setting of San Balanque?
San Balanque, yes.
Oh, I was good. Look at me.
You got it.
Okay. So the setting of San Balanque is a fictional place. Is that correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why did you choose to pick a fictional community rather than focus on a real community that went through a similar kind of revolution?
Well, as I was writing this, I was actually thinking about the revolution that took place in Nicaragua. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to write about that. I have my own characters. I have my own, for instance, in this revolution, what they're looking for is a social democracy. They're not looking for socialism per se or communism. And so I wanted to be free to create my own trajectory of this revolution.
Right. No, I can understand that. It was interesting. It felt so real to me that I actually went and looked it up and was surprised to find out, oh, this isn't a real place and these aren't real people. So you did a really good job, because I was thinking, well, maybe this is like a place that I've never heard of, which is very possible because there are so many little tiny countries that you just would never hear of. And so I was very interested to realize that.
I'm glad to hear that. I kind of set it in my mind between Honduras and Nicaragua.
Okay.
Squeezed it in there, and I've traveled through the area, so I know what the landscape is like, and I know what the culture is like, and so forth. And it was kind of fun doing that.
So given that you've done that kind of travel and you've been in these kinds of places, what was your research process like? I'm assuming you had to do some research, because you can't just make up a, 1960s, 1970s revolution era without some research. So what did that process look like for you?
Well, I love research. So it was really, really fun to do this. And one of the first books, in fact, I have it right here. Okay. Was this the Country Under My Skin? And it's by a poet, Gioconda Belli, and it's a memoir of love and war. And she was in the Nicaragua War, the revolution. She was a Sandinista. And so it tells about what it was like to be a freedom fighter at that time. And so I got a good sense of what that was. And that informed a lot of what I was writing about as far as Lena's experience when she was in San Balanque. And then I read another one that was by a journalist. It's called Blood of My Brothers, and it's Life and War in Nicaragua. I read another book by Che Guevara about guerrilla warfare, and several others like that. So yeah, I did a lot of research.
And are you like me, where you do all of this research and then you find you only need about 1% of all the things that you
Yeah. And you can get into a trap that way because you see so much you want to put in, but it's really not necessary as far as your plot goes and your character arcs. So you have to leave out so much. But I think it still gives you a sense of grounding. You kind of, what's there behind the scenes, and it helps make it more real.
I think knowing what's there allows you to pick the most precious parts of the research that are going to help your readers understand what's there.
Yes.
They do not have probably the care that you do to read all of those books before reading yours. And so you need to make sure that they get the best of the best, those nuggets that really help them understand why this would be happening. Right. Yeah. You need to start using my hashtag. I have a hashtag that I use called Research Junkie.
Oh, I do need to. I do love research. I really do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. When doing all of this writing, who was your favorite character to write?
Oh, gosh, that is kind of hard because I think I loved, each and every one of them. But Lena was wonderful to write. The main character. Raul was so much fun to write.
Steamy.
Of the more minor characters, I think one of my favorite was Fiona. She's just she was just so different from Lena, and so she was really fun to write. In fact, I was going to share with you that as I was trying to come up with this character, I came up with this gravelly kind of an Eastern European voice and realized that I was drawing from a character in the series The Expanse. If you've ever seen that, and she's just this really tough warrior woman who has that gravelly voice, and so that's how I had Fiona. So that was really fun.
Yeah. I think a lot of times those minor characters that we add in could add so much. They're so rich that they allow us, things that you need to say, that you need to do, that your main character can't do or won't do.
Yes.
And that you can then bring in with these side characters that help you to tell the story in a much richer way than what can be done, because Lena is who she is. And she can't be more than she is, and you can't have your characters go off and just do anything, right? They kind of have to follow their pathway, but you can have these extra characters that come in, do things
and they act as foils too. Because you can see the contrast between the two. The reader can see that, and it adds some extra texture and some conflict there. And so it makes it interesting. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm a little curious about your title, This Sea Within, because I think I finally figured it out, but tell us a little bit about the title. And I hate writing titles. I'm just curious, how hard was the title for you, and when did it come to you that you knew what to call the book?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because that was pretty much the germ of my book, was the title.
Really?
It's Sea Within.
So tell us about that then. How did that come to be?
Well, it has to do with this inner turmoil, that we have in life. I have in life. So many people do. Your mixed emotions, as you're trying to move forward in a certain direction, and it had to do. I mean, the sea is a huge metaphor in the whole book, you know.
Right.
And so the sea is talking about this constant conflict that is going on and this turmoil of emotions. And that's what happens in a revolution. That's what happens with Lena as she is transforming from a pacifist to a freedom fighter. And it also has to do with history. I was really wanting to bring to light this tumultuous historical time in the 70s, and it is actually still going on, of what was happening in Central America. This dictator that they're trying to overthrow was backed by the United States. And they often backed, being from the United States, backed, these dictators who would allow us to bring in our corporate interests to exploit the resources. And it was such a horrible thing, I felt and still feel. And I wanted to bring that to light because I think a lot of the trouble that we're having in the world today, all of the immigration, people trying to get out of these places that are so troubled, stems a lot from our foreign affairs, going back, to the Monroe Doctrine, really.
Right.
And so, so I kind of wanted to bring that in mind. And then also, I was writing this story, Russia invaded Ukraine. And that was a huge influence on me in the sense that it made the story, as I was writing it, seem even more relevant for these times, that history is constantly repeating itself. You have this peaceful times, and then you have these war times, and it goes over and over and over again. And so that's another kind of a metaphor that had to do with the sea, that it can be so peaceful and lovely when you're at the seashore, and then the next day the sea can come in and tear down boulders and wash away houses.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually live at the beach. I love to go and walk on the beach first thing in the morning. And I have one daughter who says to me all the time, I don't know why you keep posting all the pictures. It's the same thing over and over. And I said, I have never seen the ocean look the same. Yeah. And just like you said, there are some days where it is like there's hardly even a wave. That it's just as like glass out there. And sometimes it's blue green and gorgeous. And sometimes it is churning and spraying and splashing and almost black. It's so dark. And it's crazy because it's the same body of water and it just does change.
Yeah, all the time. And so it's just kind of a metaphor for history, too, how history is the same and it changes all the time,
Absolutely. I've had readers say that about books that I've written, which is like, oh, this is written in the 1890s, but it feels like it could have been about today. And it's like, and it's because as people, we haven't changed that much.
No, we don't. You have,
people still love, people still hate, people still have needs and wants. Things don't really change significantly. How we go about them changes. We now have technologies and things that have definitely changed our world, but it hasn't really changed how we react to one another and how we participate one with another. So
right.
I think historical fiction is a good way of taking a good look at what we're doing right now.
I think so too.
Yeah, absolutely. When people finish reading your book, Deborah, what do you hope they walk away with?
Well, I hope, first of all, that they just feel like they've had a good time. I want them to be entertained. I want them to be entertained, but also to get a sense of what was going on and what is still going on in the world, in some of these smaller countries under the influence of larger countries. And also how in the novel, I referenced the revolution that took place in the United States, freeing itself from King George. And Lena often thinks about that, that these revolutions are constantly going on, and you don't know what's going to happen, at the end of them, and if it will be worth all the loss of life. And and I look at what has happening in Ukraine and other places in the world, and I don't know if I'm answering your question.
You are. We're talking, just about what you want people to get when they're done reading. And so it's, to me, it's the idea that history keeps repeating. We keep seeing these same kinds of things over and over. And I don't know what the answer is to make us stop doing it, but how many wars have we had where they've said this is the war to end all wars, and it never is.
No, but yet there come times when you do have to stand up, and whether you win or lose, it's a moral obligation to try to free a country from a corrupt dictator, for instance, or as in Ukraine, to save your country from, the invaders.
Right.
And it sometimes leads to us having to take positions and do things that we would never have done if there hadn't been a war there. And this is what Lena learns, as she's transforming.
Right. She starts out, like you said, as very much a pacifist, and realizes that those things that she learned in the safety of her home in the United States, where she had plenty of food and she had freedoms and she could pretty much do what she wanted, didn't exist where she was now. That wasn't true. There's a couple of scenes that we see, and I don't try to tell too much about the story, so I won't get into it, but there are a couple of scenes that we see where she recognizes, essentially, I'm not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah.
This is not like being at home.
Right. Yeah.
And those are very transformative for her.
And travel is so good, I think, for all of us. And this happens when you travel. You realize how different things are in other places of the world, and it really broadens your horizon and gives you new insights into life and politics and all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Deborah, what are you working on now? Now that you've got this See Within out of your head, are you working on something else?
Well, it's not out of my head.
Well.
No, when I first started coming up with this idea, I realized I couldn't get everything I wanted to say done in one book.
Okay.
But I wanted the first book to be a standalone, because who knows what might happen. Maybe I won't write the second book, so I wanted it to could be read as a standalone with a complete, character arc, and where the reader can come to the end and feel fully satisfied. But there is going to be a second and a third book. I see it as a trilogy.
Okay.
So
I had a feeling with the way it ends. It does, like you said, it ends completely. You don't get left hanging but there are many things that haven't been completed at the end, right? And so I wondered if maybe you were going to move forward with more, which it was very thrilling to me, because it'll be fantastic. I'm curious to know how it all works out in the end.
Yes, I hope so.
Where are you in that process?
Well, actually, when I was writing the first book, because I knew kind of what was going to be happening in the second and the third, I would sometimes come up with scenes for the second and the third, and I start writing it down. So I have a lot of scenes already written for the second book and the third book. And so I'm at the place where I'm going to start knitting together the scenes and then writing new scenes. And, I'm more of a pantser than a plotter, but I still do look ahead and kind of see, a framework, just a framework to work within. And I know that can change a lot as I start writing the second book. I kind of know what I want to happen there, but it could change. It happened with the first book. I had a different sense of where things were going to go, and it changed as I was writing. So, but I do have a framework, and I think it will take the 3 books to kind of bring that final resolution.
Okay. All right. Are you going to give us any kind of indication as to when do you hope you have book 2 out?
It will be probably at least a year, probably a year and a half. It could be 2, but so I don't know. I don't know.
Right. And are you hoping that book 2 will also stand alone? Like if someone picked up book 2 first, would they be able to read that without having read book 1, or are they going to have to go back to book 1?
Well, that's a good question. As I'm getting into book 2, I'm trying to think of how much to bring forward from the book.
Right.
I mean, I even thought about the other day, I was thinking, well, I wonder if I should have something like they have on TV with series, and you finish the season 1 and then they go to season 2 and then they go back and kind of tell you what happened. And I thought, I wonder, can you do that with a book? Could I just...
Yeah. I mean, I think you can. I know a lot of people that write series bring in just enough information that when I'm reading a second book and haven't read a first, I become aware. I bet there are things here I don't know, but it doesn't hurt me that I don't know it. Like, because you soon learn it. You figure it out because of other things that are going on. So I've always been fascinated with people who write a series, because that to me would be so difficult to make sure that everything that you said the first time, that you don't contradict yourself later somewhere else, because I'm a pantser, very much a pantser. And I don't know, it just scares me. The idea of a series just scares me.
Well, I did have to had a whole bunch of like note cards of the different characters, how old they were, where they were from, and different information about them, so that I could draw upon that. And I will be drawing upon that for the next one, because there's going to be characters that were minor in the first one that will pop up and be a little bit more major in the second.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Deborah, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, talk with you about this See Within, your writing, anything else that is exciting to them about this whole process, what's the best way to do that?
Well, probably on my author website. It's deborahjbrasket.com. I have a blog, and I also have different pages that tell about the different books. So there'll be updates about the different books. And in fact, The See Within is my second book. And so there'll be information about my first one. So I hope people will have a chance to take a look at that. Yeah.
Super. Tell us the name of that first book.
When Things Go Missing. And it's a family saga, actually. So it's a different genre, but it's got very passionate people in that book as well.
Fantastic. Guys, I will have all of that in the show notes to make it easy for you, so you'll be able to reach out and contact Deborah. I highly recommend that you run out and grab the book, This See Within. It was fabulous. I really enjoyed it. Once you've read it, make sure you go on Amazon and give it some reviews, because as authors, we really need those reviews. And Deborah, I want to thank you so much for being with me today. This has been wonderful.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me. This was fun. I enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Online for Authors, where I, Terry M. Brown, author of character-driven fiction and host of the podcast, introduce readers to characters they'd love to invite to lunch. Tune in next Tuesday for another podcast episode.